What's up, fellow humans? Dan the Platinum Man here. Oh, look! It's time for another Life is Strange Platinum run, which means more fake choices, more angsty teens, and more pretentious indie music. Although I kinda like the music, so maybe I'm pretentious too. That's right, we're here again with another uneventful Platinum run for yet another Life is Strange game. That's right, this time we're looking at Life is Strange True Colors, a story that would be right at home on Netflix, being about someone who recently moves to a small rural town with a lot of personal baggage and has to deal with a murder. Like the other Life is Strange games, you pretend to be human, like some kind of lizard person, expecting your choices to sort of matter, as in most things happen are out of your direct control, you just control the minutia. As usual, the platinum is incredibly easy with a minor twist. In this game, the collectibles are memories, requiring you to scan certain items to find out a bit of backstory. Most of this background info is superficial and can almost always safely be ignored. The other minor thing for trophies are these mini quests to help people around town. They can't be called side quests, they're not nearly long or involved enough, as most of them boil down to use power on person, look at object, talk to person, and done. This could have been significantly more interesting if either A, more quests could be done or have been implemented, and they were spanning an episode or two to complete or were more involved in some capacity, or B, that the items that you can scan, as opposed to being a small handful, were numerous per location. Sure, not every item is going to be of emotional importance, but there are several items in game that should have been scannable in some capacity, for lore if nothing else. Instead, it feels strangely streamlined, like not much has any importance. Now, I'm sure you've noticed, I talk about using the power or scanning, but what exactly is the power we can use in this game? Well, our main character, Alex Chen, is an empath, a girl with the power to visualize the aura of people
Still
with
need to
a
check the flower shop
strong
for Mac.
emotion. Strong being in quotes here. This lets her feel what others are feeling and the associated thoughts behind this feeling in the moment.
Yikes.
The idea behind this power is kinda interesting, as it not only gives you the current immediate thought of the person being scanned, it contextualizes the thoughts, kinda like how emojis can change the way a text is read. However, this power is very poorly implemented. First, and somewhat believably, Alex doesn't have full control over her powers. She'll read people unintentionally, and people can represent obstacles to her as the strength of the emotions repels Alex, making her sick, or at the very least unwilling to feel the same way by association. As she's never really tried to fully control these powers, it's understandable she's not an expert at using them. However, the problems with this power are limited by the range of emotions that Alex is able to detect. And arguably, that's more the fault of the writers. During the course of the game, the associated emotions Alex can detect and see as auras are anger, which is red, sadness, which is blue, fear, which is purple, and joy, which is the sun. How is this girl 21 years old and her entire emotional spectrum boils down to four key emotions? That's even less than the first Inside Out movie. And not only that, but until basically the end of chapter 2, joy isn't even in the equation. Everything is either anger, fear, or sadness in some capacity. Where's love? disgust, anxiety, hope. Would that have been too hard to program into the game? The messaging seems really forced to me, and really seems to suggest a lack of understanding of people on behalf of the writing team. Granted, to an extent this is to be expected based on the story beats, but still feels off as contrived. Or, it was written by people pretending to be humans, i.e., lizard people. But let's get into the story. Obviously, full spoilers ahead. Alex has been living around in various orphanages and foster homes. Her mother is dead, her father is dead to her due to abuse, and Gabe, her older brother, went to juvie for a time and now has a life in the small rural town of Haven Springs. Gabe, upon getting his life together, has spent a lot of time tracking down his sister Alex so that they can be reunited. He invites her to live with him in Haven Springs. The game opens up with us controlling Alex, walking onto the bridge leading to town, and taking in the gorgeous new art direction the game took, being more real looking while keeping the art direction and musical tone of the previous games. We get some snippets into Alex and her powers, and get introduced to the town's residents, the side characters we'll sorta deal with. We got Gabe, the older brother, reformed convict, and seemingly general good guy. We meet Ryan, Gabe's best friend, and the only really decent guy in the whole game, at least who sticks around. Steph, the town's resident hipster, whose personality boils down to being the typical progressive, anti-corporation, mildly woke into girls girl. Oh, she also gets mad very easily. We meet Jed, who seems like a nice guy, but I don't fully trust him. As for more of the side characters, we meet Diane, a transplant lawyer working for the legal department of Typhon, the local mining corporation. Ducky, a funny, overly articulate old man. Charlotte, Gabe's girlfriend. Ethan, Charlotte's kid. Riley, the daughter of the florist and Mac's ex-girlfriend. Mac, a minor and ex-boyfriend of Riley. Eleanor, the town florist, mother of Riley, and whom suffers from dementia. And Pike, the piece of shit cop that all Life is Strange games seem to have. I have yet to play a Life is Strange with doesn't have a dick cop character. It seems to be a theme with these people. And spoiler alert, Life is Strange 2 has several. So, the first chapter moves pretty slow. Most of it is spent getting to know the town's one street where almost everything happens, and the townspeople. Gabe has gotten Alex not only her own place to live, fully furnished, although honestly for as cool as it is, the kitchen is severely lacking, but Gabe also got Alex a job as a waitress for the bar. Oh, and it's worth noting the studio apartment has a killer roof and a garden, and is located on the second floor of the bar. Shortly after arriving in the apartment, Max shows up, enraged, and starts beating the shit out of Gabe. Gabe, the pussy that he is, doesn't fight back. But Alex does. With the only quick-time event in the game, she rushes Mac, beats the ever-living snot out of him, and even damages Gabe when he tries to calm her down. Yes, Alex was truly overwhelmed by Mac's rage. After calming down, we proceed to head to the bar, meet and live with the folks, making sure to tell Riley that Max started the fight and lost it, so that they break up for good, and then proceeding to the roof to reconcile with Gabe. It's at this point the true drama sets in, as Ethan is unaccounted for. Now, the little ragamuffin confided in us that he was going to explore the abandoned mines tonight in secret. Now, this would be a bad idea for anyone to do alone, made even worse by exploring at night. But somehow that's not all. It's even worse than that because we were told that Typhon would be detonating parts of the mountain later tonight. Obviously, the only correct thing to do is to tell Gabe, who warns Charlotte to keep an eye on her kid. However, as Charlotte is shown to be neglectful in multiple ways, such as skipping her own meals, she doesn't even keep an eye on her own kid. So, all the following events are all her fault for being a bad and neglectful mother who was warned about her kid doing something stupid and did nothing to prevent it. There's contrived, and then there's this, which is worse. So Alex, Ryan, and Gabe rush up the mountains to find Ethan, whom his mother should have been watching. Gabe calls Mac and gets confirmation that the blasting will be postponed at least until after Ethan is rescued and everyone gets clear. The group finds Ethan, and of course Alex is the only one who can get to him. We, the players, get to see the full extent of Alex's powers, being able to see what other people see as a result of their emotions. In this case, Ethan is terrified and sees an evil monster in the ravine below, trapping him. Alex manages to calm Ethan down and rescue him. It all feels fine until the detonations go off, causing an avalanche. Typhon uses Rock Slide on Gabe, and it's super effective. Gabe gets nailed in the head, bad, and is dead before he even falls, judging from the size of the rock that caved his head in. Of course, Gabe is tied to Alex for safety, and Ryan has to make the call to cut Gabe's lifeless corpse from the rope so that Alex, Ryan, and Ethan can get to safety from the man-made avalanche. The chapter ends, and Gabe is dead. Chapter 2 starts with tensions running high, a wake being held for Gabe in the bar. Accusations fly. Mac denies that there ever was a call. An investigation of Typhon needs to be made, and tensions are high from anger and low from sadness. Following this, Steph comes to visit us and activates mild depression mode. We dive in like Nagy from Neo The World Ends With You, a much better game, and we gotta fight the noise. It's interesting to see the world reflected by Steph's emotion, as now it's rainy, overcast, the room muddied with blues and grays. So, we let Steph win the foosball game to cheer her up. Yes, we let her win on purpose, ignore the footage. And then decide we gotta go interrogate Mac for some answers. Apparently, this is also the same Steph from Arcadia Bay, from before the storm. Glad to see another person is alive because Chloe died. Alex tries to leave the bar, not before Jed says some weird stuff. We look around town, making sure to help the dude find his dog and tell Charlotte not to take Typhon's hush money, and meeting Eleanor, who we help through a bout of her early onset dementia. Memory loss diseases are terrible, shown through the encroaching brain fog that Eleanor can't remove by herself. Oh, and apparently the developers thought the morally correct option is to keep Eleanor's early onset dementia a secret. We then find and interrogate Mac, whose paranoia is terrifying him, seeing no way out, thinking it would be better if he was dead, like usual, and find out that while the call was received, Mac is being forcibly gagged by Typhon. So, now we know there's a cover-up. Time to dig deeper. But we should calm Mac down, it's not entirely his fault. But first, we gotta go rescue the hunk. Or maybe he's closer to a himbo. Either way, we find Ryan at the ravine where Gabe was manslaughtered, and Ryan is mad, mainly at himself for making the choice to guarantee Gabe's death by cutting him loose. We talk Ryan down in a scene that isn't nearly as emotional as with Kate in the first game, as apparently Ryan will never jump, so there's no stakes, unlike with Kate. And then something annoying happens. We get to see the first time Alex sees someone experience true, unadulterated joy. Like, how the hell is someone who has this power only now experiencing someone else with joy? We know Alex has done drugs, has had sex, and such, so she has to have at least some idea of true joy or what it looks like. It just feels really contrived. Of course, this is also why Ryan is the only logical choice for a relationship in this game, which apparently even the game's creators thought so too, as Ryan is the default, with Steph only being an option. In fact, it's apparently really hard to keep Alex single. So, we proceed to the paper lantern lighting ceremony, and everyone radiates joy thinking of how good Gabe was. Except for that bitch Diane, who's radiating fear. Why would she be radiating fear? Unless she's guilty? So, we go into part 3, knowing there is a conspiracy to cover up something, and that odds are Diane is involved in some capacity. So, the trio of friends, Ryan, Steph, and Alex, decide to commit more crimes to uncover the truth. Use Ryan to seduce Diane, not just because he's hotter than Steph, but also because Diane clearly seems more into him. So Alex riles Diane up, so that the quasi-telepathic link can confirm Diane has evidence of the conspiracy and manslaughter. So, with Ryan seducing Diane enough for Alex to commit larceny, Alex can successfully steal the USB drive with all the evidence Diane needs to protect herself. Of course, the info is password protected. So, the gang involves Riley as a vague favor. However, we gotta go do a LARP. Yeah, most of this chapter revolves around trying to make Ethan happy as he blames himself for Gabe's death. You know, as he should! Gabe wouldn't have died if you stayed home like Gabe and Charlotte told you to do! At least the LARP is kind of fun. Going on some minor quest, Ethan's joy hijacking the world, and the game turning into a full-blown RPG, which probably would have been a more fun and interesting game to play. Ethan and Alex take down the final boss, Jed. Foreshadowing, perhaps? And then, just like in Silent Hill, the sirens start blaring and Ethan's world evaporates before our eyes as the cold, harsh reality sets back in. Quick question. Why couldn't the whole LARP have been done like the finale? That would have been so much cooler. Anyways, Ethan gets shipped off for the rest of the game. Good riddance. But we better go check on his mom, Charlotte, who's acting strange. She's acting strange because she's in the third stage of the grieving process. Anger! So, Alex tries to help Charlotte and discovers that Charlotte is angry at Gabe for dying, Ryan for cutting the rope, Alex simply for existing, and Ethan for being at fault that Gabe died in the first place, as Charlotte never thought she'd have a second chance at love. Strange how she isn't angry at herself for being a neglectful parent, who is arguably more at fault and should theoretically be arrested for child endangerment. But that's a woman for you. And now, just like the first game, seeing as how it's near the end of the third chapter, it's time for the new application of the character's power. Alex has the ability to take away someone's emotion, which could potentially help someone at the cost of more mental tax on Alex herself. Unlike in Life is Strange 1, however, this power is only used 3 times throughout the game, and the effects aren't as profound as one might expect. Apparently, in this case, it's better to leave Charlotte angry, as this prevents Alex from randomly exploding at her two friends and allows Charlotte to properly process her grief. So, we head back to the studio and finally have access to the USB drive. Alex, together with Ryan and Steph, finds the recording between Mac and Gabe that proves Gabe called, got an answer, and was then manslaughtered. Further digging reveals Project Rhea, a second explosion meant to cover up something and pass inspections for the mines in the company. It also makes Diane seem hella guilty. And like anyone else dumb in these things, the cast doesn't make backups or copies of the data on the drive and simply call the police. Now, anyone knows that this evidence would be immediately deemed inadmissible in court, and if this drive gets lost, stolen, or destroyed, then all the evidence is gone. How hard would it be to see the post of a Diane worried about the drive being stolen, and a few days later say that the drive was found in the cushions of a chair or booth in the bar, and was found while it was being cleaned extra thoroughly after closing? This could help prevent some suspicion from being thrown Alex's way, especially with what happens later with Pike, the dick cop. Anyway, the chapter ends with the crew vindicated that there is solid evidence. Chapter 4 begins with Alex's proclamation that Pike will have the evidence and can continue the investigation. But first, it's party time! We head to the spring festival, immediately grab a rose to hook up with Ryan, give it to him, meander about, help Ducky with his sad wife troubles, get forced to play a song with Steph, some friend she is. Can you believe that there are people that say Alex and Steph make a better couple than Alex and Ryan? Ryan meets us on the roof garden with a special tree. A kiss is shared, joy radiates out from the rooftop, everyone gets happy, and the tree blooms for the new lovers. Heterosexuality for the win, baby! Of course, it's not all sunshine and rainbows. Pike shows up and arrests Alex, as Diane is pressing charges for theft, and because it's potentially regarding corporate secrets, the charges are more severe than simple larceny. Never sign anything the cops give you, and take away Pike's grounded, rational fear of the corporation, their hush money, dirty secrets, and more. So, once Alex is home, Jed says he can help. Jed leads Alex out to the woods, and, with mass destruction playing in the background,
only one world, one love, but the battle goes in shadows of mass destruction.
misses a shot at point-blank range, which makes Alex fall into an open mine vent. The chapter ends with the plot twist we all probably saw coming, that Jed is secretly a bad guy. Chapter 5, The Final Frontier. Welcome to another trippy dream sequence where, like the first game, Alex starts going crazy and gets taken through a trauma dump sequence, giving us all the backstory about her life. It's nice of the developers to actually model the mom who dies of cancer and the abusive dad, although I'm almost certain that they are both model swaps. But they also couldn't be bothered to make younger models for Gabe and Alex. After the annoyingly long but thankfully without arbitrary forced stealth trauma dump, we find a locket at the end of the tunnel guiding us to it. A locket that belonged to Alex's father. That's right, Alex's himbo boyfriend's father is directly responsible for the death of both of the men in her family. So, against the odds, Alex escapes. Conveniently, the whole town, well, all of the important people anyway, are gathered to vote on if Typhon should expand the Manding operation. But Alex shows up, throwing a monkey wrench into it. Diane, of course, tries to cover it up and gaslight everyone, but Alex has none of it. Alex proceeds to invade the mind of Jed and forces Jed to admit to everything. Make sure you don't forgive Jed, as not only is he beyond forgiveness, you should never forgive those who wronged you. I'm looking dead square at you, Chloe. I'm glad the bay survived and you're gone. And because we did everything that was morally correct, everyone sides with Alex. Jed is arrested. Diane is also arrested, presumably, though unconfirmed. And there we have it. The ending, hypothetical and actual. Steph seems to leave, and she won't exactly be missed. Alex gets the record store. People live, people move on. Ryan gets the bar, and they live happily ever after. Until we get to the dumb choice of either leaving town or staying. Reading the post on the phone, it's clear Alex has refused to pursue greater legal action against Typhon, which is honestly a huge mistake. As not only are they sure to do it again, and the head of the company seems to have gotten off scot-free, but after everything else, where would she go? She has friends and potential family in Haven. She belongs there. Why would leaving even be an option? What brain dead idea was that to leave the only place she's ever been able to call home in years? As usual, the choices didn't seem to matter that much. Alex pretty much always gets a relationship, and Ryan is the default. You can't keep Gabe alive. You have to beat the shit out of Mac. Jed will always shoot you into the mineshaft. Diane is always a bitch. Charlotte is always neglectful. And Ethan causes Gabe to die. The other minor stuff isn't that great. Why should Mac and Riley be together? Riley is clearly better off without him. Why is it morally correct to keep Eleanor's brain issues a secret when she's at the age where that kind of thing is seriously dangerous? I can see that telling Riley could prevent her from going to college, really studying for her future, but someone should still always be around for Eleanor. Why can't we tell Ducky to hang out with Eleanor more for Eleanor's safety? Is it just as wrong to keep Eleanor's dementia a secret as it is to keep Ethan's dangerous exploring a secret? Why can't we decide to have Alex pursue greater legal action against Typhon? And why the hell would we ever decide to leave the town when even with the death of Gabe, it's still the best place Alex has ever been? Everyone, even the villains, welcomed Alex into town with open arms and let Alex do most everything at her own pace. Maybe if nobody was convinced about Jed before the obligatory confession, then it makes sense for Alex to leave town. Meaning that at the very least this game is better than the first, as the ending doesn't invalidate the rest of the game. The options could be dumb, but I guess they sort of make sense. But lackluster choices, heavy railroading, and blatantly stupid writing brings this game down. Regarding ranking, there are games with better choices and greater ramifications, with more interesting stories and gameplay, with some examples being The Quarry and Hidden Agenda. This is definitely the best looking Life is Strange game so far, and had a pretty good art direction. However, the character designs all felt extremely stereotypical, and I definitely wanted to smack some of the characters, but nowhere near as much as I wanted to smack Chloe from the first game. And the ending, while passable, isn't really great. So the game's going to get a 56 out of 100 on the patented Dan the Ranking Man scale. The music wasn't as memorable, the power was squandered rather than fully utilized. Like, come on, if Alex can take people's emotions, can she also give them? The pulse doesn't count as it seems to be one and done. Or can she spur them more often? Or what would happen if Alex encountered someone manic who alternated heavily between extreme highs and lows, where the emotions would radiate out from them in alternating waves? The story was pretty weak, and the ending really falls flat. So, at least it's over with. Thanks for listening to me ramble, and just wait for me to rip a new one on that about the absolute batshit show that is Life is Strange 2. So remember, until next time, and remember, only losers miss shots at point blank range.